Hello and welcome back to More Than a Game, a podcast dedicated to the Premier League, the A-League and more. Today on the show, tyrants fall as Sydney and Liverpool lose on the same day and Trump is officially out. The Bunnings A-League keeps on giving us wonder kids at every club, giving Zapponi a very sore throat, giving us more than the voice of football, plus the merry-go-round at the top of the Premier League keeps on going around. I'm Colby and I'm joined today by Damo and Jesse. Boys, we're all back on the same pod at the same time. I feel like it's been too long. Jesse, mate, how are you feeling after our little five-a-side tourney yesterday and a day at the coast today?
It's just been relentless, mate. It's been five-a-side, beers in a rooftop bar, straight down the coast, like friends' babies, holding them, having a beer, getting back in the car, driving back here, More Than a Game pod. It's just been relentless, but, I wouldn't have any other way. And just one drink, by the way, just one drink. We drink and drive responsibly here.
Damo, back in Vic after an extended visit to Queensland. How are you going, mate?
Yep, good. Trying to settle back into life. Haven't done so successfully yet, but getting there.
And there's been a good reaction, Damo, this week to MTAG Trivia, another good little initiative you've announced. The people are liking it. Are we going to see more?
Definitely. Just let me compile some more obscure facts and we'll get some more going.
Get Optidamo on the case. Plenty to come on the pod today. A wild 9-goal thriller in Geelong as Western United and Perth did battle. A-League wonder kids, Sydney losing to Central Coast, Liverpool losing to Burnley and Chelsea losing again. We'll also give an update on our A-League Survivor tipping comp and much more. But first of all, boys, let's kick off with moments of the week. We might throw to you first, Jesse.
Yeah, so my moment of the week is obviously the Woo game and how ridiculous that was. And we'll talk about that more in a sec. My own goal was that I missed it. I got home and as we talked about yesterday, Colby, we had some great five-a-side. And it was pretty hot and I was thirsty. And I was thinking about either just sitting on the couch and watching some A-League, which is obviously what I should have done. But my wife put the carrot out there and said, do you want to come have a pint on a rooftop bar? And I just thought, I'll come for that. I'll come for a drink and I'll catch up in the A-League later. I then checked my phone.
How are you to know that Richie Garcia's Perth just decided not to defend for an afternoon?
Well, it's like you're taking the bet there. You're sort of thinking, I've got the odds are that the beer on the rooftop bar is going to pay off more than a spectacle of 9 goals. So I was unlucky in that regard. That's my own goal, missing the game. But what a game it was. It earns my moment of the week.
So you and Tommy's dad both had to catch up with the goals on replay because Tommy's dad was watching live but missed all of the goals as well. So you both had to catch them on the replay.
Oh, that's great.
That's cool.
Damo, moment of the week, mate.
My moment of the week comes from the African Nations Championship, which I believe is like the level under the African Cup of Nations. So don't know if either of you guys saw this, but Zimbabwe played Cameroon in the opening game of the tournament. And Cameroon won 1-0, only for the Zimbabwe manager Zdravko Logosuric, who took to Twitter posting a photo of himself with a dead bird on the field, holding a handwritten sign in English that said "Witchcraft in Cameroon." So the Zimbabwean FA have officially reported Cameroon for witchcraft now after that happened. So it's all happening in Africa.
Jesus. Gee whiz.
What do I make of this?
I didn't quite know whether this is going to be my own goal or my moment of the week. So I went with moment of the week because why not?
Unbelievable scenes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna take us back down to earth for my moment of the week, boys. I'm gonna have to give it to 19-year-old Aussie winger Caleb Watts, who made his senior debut for Southampton earlier in the week, playing 85 minutes in a cup game. Never heard of this kid before. I'm not going to pretend that I did. But apparently he did really well, according to the Southampton fans. And good to hear some good news for Aussies overseas because there hasn't been a lot of that lately. Although we will get onto a little bit more shortly in the pod. There was a SBS The World Game article which had some quotes from Trevor Morgan, the Joey's coach, saying that just gassing him up, reckoning that Watts is going to fly up the national team ranks. So he's certainly one that I'll have my eye on now.
It's good for you.
Yeah.
Own goal, Damo.
My own goal this week was, let me just pull it up for you. It was the Twitter drama, which I'm sure, Colby, you've seen. Jesse, you've probably seen as well. The original bullpen having a Twitter war with the bullpen official. So the club that's been around for how many games? 4 games, I think they've played in the A-League, and they've already got warring factions of active support. And we heard earlier today that apparently there's a third floating around there that are trying to put their name out as the official active support. So it's all happening in Campbelltown.
Do you reckon we should just band together and start a group of active supporters for MacArthur? I mean, why not? Let's just throw
MacArthur fans in Melbourne. Just why not?
Just Mick troll them with some. Yeah, I think that, how can you so early on already be having an infight? It's just,
I'm pretty sure the Twitter account that calls himself the original bullpen disbanded even before the season began.
It seemed like what it seemed to me was that the original were around sort of first, I guess, and then got moved aside by this new official MacArthur. When the official one sort of got the nod, they got the endorsement by the club, and then basically the original ones spat the dummy because they didn't get the nod from the club, and they've just been going out there on Twitter and alleging that they're the true fans and the official aren't the true fans, and just sniping at the management of the club, and it's just a real mess.
I think my favorite quote from one of the tweets from the original bullpen was that the current bullpen claim they're a separate entity to the club, but they're as separate as Pepsi Max is from PepsiCo.
That's good. That's really good. I was just going to say, if you guys are part of the, Colby, Tommy, founding members of the Woo, does this make you guys kind of like OG Woo members?
Original Woo members. Yes.
Would you be able to sort of hold your own in the alley, like in a Green Street hooligans setup, if you got called up by one of the firms, the old firms, the Woo firms? Would you be able to just jump in there as a foundation member? These are the questions that we need to ask of people who are fighting to be in the bullpen. If you want to be in the bullpen, you've got to prove yourself.
You've got to have You've got to have an 8-second ride on the mechanical bull to be eligible.
It's the highest quality beef that we've seen out of MacArthur since the season began.
I can't wait to see more.
All right.
Jesse, how about you, mate? What caught your eye in the wrong way this week?
Well, I suppose it's just me missing that game. That was really the only own goal, because apart from that, Liverpool played like shit, and the Phoenix have just lost about half an hour ago. So those are definitely own goals, but I won't derail it with bias for my own teams. I think just generally this week was a pretty good week for football. So I think the own goal was me missing some of the said good football.
Big own goal. Mine is Brenton Speed. You might have seen the tweet this week, but he put out a tweet, and I'll just read it out because my paraphrasing won't do it justice. He said, "The highlight of my week, becoming the first person to correctly pronounce Alan Stage's name on Australian TV the way he wants. Note his reaction. He's a great guy. Everyone knows as Stag, but the surname pronunciation guide is Stajic. Hashtag solved mysteries." So look, if this isn't the biggest case of overconfident white male of the week, then I don't know what is.
I think my favorite response was Lucy Zelich.
Yeah.
Or was it the little hand up emoji that was like, "I'm here, Speedy. I've been doing it for years."
Lucy Zelich, internationally recognized pronunciation stickler from SBS, the broadcaster which prides itself on respect for multiculturalism and getting pronunciation absolutely correct. Yes, I think there are other people out there who can pronounce names, Speedy.
The obvious analogy for all those Game of Thrones fans out there for me was Ramsay Bolton being locked in a room with his hounds. And they said you got to watch out for those hounds. They're going to have a go at you. They're pretty hungry. And he goes, they'll never harm me. That my dogs are loyal. And we all saw what happened next to Ramsay Bolton. Well, essentially, Twitter was the hounds, and Speedy was a little bit overconfident when he put out that tweet. And let's just say that Twitter ate him alive. And to be honest, he probably deserved it with that sort of overconfidence. You just can't do that on Twitter, especially soccer Twitter, and get away with it.
Speedy has become a meme of himself this year, and I'm actually kind of starting to like it.
I'm all about it. Ever since that Fox exec tweeted that Speedy was the voice of football and the best commentator in Australia pre-season, I've been all about Speedy and just gassing him up to try and bait people on soccer Twitter, and it's like it's the easiest bait, and I will keep using it until I'll keep going to that well until the well is dry. Oh, boys. Let's have a bit of a pre-game chat before we get to the match reviews. We were talking yesterday in our group chat, and we put a question out on Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit as well, where we're also active from time to time. Who is the best young talent in the A-League this season? And I've put on the run sheet, boys, so you can see we've had a lot of responses. There's been a lot of discussion about this, but I'll read out a few and we can sort of just react to some of these reactions. Obviously, with the Adelaide game yesterday, Mo Toure was pretty highly ranked. There's some recency bias in there, but also, he's pretty electric. Sal Talks Soccer on Twitter says Toure, that's the answer, because Sal knows.
What doesn't terrific. Sal know?
Sal seems to know all this. I think Sal knows the A-League better than we do now. But,
yeah, probably.
Super Terrific Man on Reddit says Toure's speed, strength, and balance is hard to go past. Couldn't disagree with that. And there was another Reddit comment after that from Gonzano, which said it's actually freaky knowing that a 16-year-old is that good already. And he just didn't look 16, did he?
I think that's the tipping point, isn't it? Is his age. I mean, it's there's all the qualities that you just described that make him an incredibly exciting talent. But, it's his age. I mean, I think the coolness of that finish the other night was pretty awesome to watch.
I think Robert Cornthwaite put it well at halftime. He was talking about Dylan Ryan, the centre half for Melbourne Victory, and said that he's played a lot of youth team football, a lot of under-19s, a lot of under-23s, and ironically, he was playing against a kid who was playing like a man that day. And I thought that was a really good way to put it, because Toure he didn't look like a 16-year-old. He looked like someone who's been running around the A-League for season after season. And he's so calm, he's so confident, and like you said, Jesse, that finish just looked like a seasoned veteran.
4 games, 2 goals, 1 assist. It's pretty wild. Nisbet from Central Coast got a few shouts as well. A-League FC on Twitter said it's Nisbet and it's not even close. And our top fan Shannon on Facebook, 100% has to be Nisbet. However, it is his 3rd season in the league. I can't believe that. I've only really heard of him this season and maybe towards the end of last season.
Yeah, I honestly hadn't I know he's been in the league, but like you said, his name really hasn't been in and around these conversations the whole time. So
another one to get a lot of votes or a lot of mentions in our discussion was Louis Dorigo from Adelaide United, Joshua Watson and HSN giving him a shout. Ilan Dur on Reddit saying everyone will say Mo Toure because he scored 2 goals already in his age, but Dorigo is a key player for Adelaide in arguably one of the most difficult positions, so I rate him higher.
Yeah, and I think Dorigo played something like 24 games last season and really ran the show pretty much. I think he's only 18 or 19 this year as well. So
yeah, and in that defensive midfield position where you have to be so big and physical, and a lot of players, younger than 20 sort of haven't really, finished filling out, and for him to just have the physicality as well as the maturity, and to have all those games under his belt already, he's looking really good.
Yeah.
Couple more. We've got King from Sydney. HSN threw his hat in the ring as well, and a lot of other people mentioned King. Tate Russell got a lot of mentions, as well as Aquilina from Western Sydney. Tommy on Twitter, not our Tommy C, but another Tommy on Twitter said Russell by far at the moment, as well as Joshua Watson on Twitter said Russell. But if you're going over 20, he wants to throw in Devlin and Denny John Rowe. And at WS Papafen on Twitter said he's liking Aquilina a lot at the moment, but he's not at a Tate level, but excited for what the season holds for him. And it may be the first Western Sydney jersey he'll buy with his name on the back. So that's
wow.
Big raps for Aquilina.
Huge.
Couple more. Macklin Freak, after his 6 saves on debut against Newcastle earlier in the week, he got a rap on Reddit by Yay ST. Early signs for Freak, but at Brisbane might be a breakthrough season for him this year.
Freak of nature.
He'll definitely have a chance, though, I guess, with this injury to Young. It's sort of like with goalkeepers, you can go like years and years without getting your chance. But if something like this happens, he has a big opportunity now. I know Brisbane have got in Bon Scott from the Brisbane Strikers as a backup. So there's that safety net there, I suppose, if something happens with Macklin. But I'm really keen to see what he can do as well.
Well, as a young goalkeeper, everything's really got to fall your way, hasn't it? He was a third string keeper last season, and the second string keeper never got a game because Jamie Young was so fit all year. So he went off to get game time at a different club. And 3 games into the season, Jamie Young's out for a couple of months. Who knows? No one really knows how long his injury is going to be. So Freak's gone from being a youth team keeper / third string first team keeper to now starting for the first team. So when it all falls into place, this few month period he gets could be his ticket to go and be a starting keeper at another club next year.
Carlo Armiento got a rap as well from Greg Arms on Twitter through his name.
Amaretto
sour. Got his
God.
Got a cocktail on your mind.
He got a mention as well after his couple of goals for Perth in that wild game at Western United. Rami Nazarene got a mention on Reddit as well, saying he's impressed in a poor team, a Jets that's struggling to convert at the moment. This is obviously before the Jets game that occurred with the Knicks right before we recorded, where they got up. So and he said he's creating opportunities that O'Donovan isn't converting. But I think that comment still stands, notwithstanding Newcastle's good performance tonight. I think Rami's looked good for them so far. And no one's put Valentino Ewell 3 goals in 3 games now, and hasn't got a look in. Might be an oversight.
Look, I'm also a bit disappointed that Alu Kowal didn't get a mention. I mean, man's only just turned 19, and he's out here leading the line for the team on the top of the league. So,
and it couldn't be a young hot prospect of the A League in season 2021 without mentioning LA Rose.
That's right.
Kevin Walters on Reddit said Touré's incredible, and I've also been very impressed with LA Rose. Aussie Tiger on Reddit says Touré's probably the standout so far, but let's not forget the legend that is LA Rose, already the GOAT after just 4 games. But then he says, legit, though, it's great to see how many young players are featuring this year. It's a sign that maybe we should keep the 5 subs over the 3 windows idea. So much better to see the next gen than recycled talent that have bounced between clubs for years.
Yeah, well, I think just looking at this weekend, there was a 15-year-old who sat on the bench for Perth Glory. He didn't come on. And then a 16-year-old started for Adelaide, and they had another 16-year-old on the bench. So there's plenty of youth running around in the A-League, and we'll probably get chances this year. And I think Carl Viet said that the youngest Touré brother is probably in line to get some minutes later on in the season if he can keep up his performances in the NPL squad. So I think Musa Touré is only 14.
Good luck, my boy. I'm investing early.
I know. I called him. I already called him last year.
I'm buying now. I'm buying up big.
If you're collecting A-League player card sets, it's quite difficult with these groups of brothers, because you might get 3 of the Petratai, for example, but if you can't get that elusive 4th card, you can't complete the set. And I think that we're getting a few of these groups now starting to emerge, come through the ranks, and it's going to be really difficult for card collectors out there, I think.
Well, what about the for card collectors? Talking about Alu Kowal before, I found a good stat before that Alu Kowal has 3 younger brothers who are all in the NPL set up at the Golden Valley Suns. So
yeah, that's a headache waiting to happen.
All 3 Kowals are my boy.
You can't do that. You got to be able to name them.
I don't know. I don't know their first names.
I'm also surprised. One other omission. I know he's injured, but Al Hassan Touré. Come on.
Yeah, but he
was
good
top
for
liver?
He was good for about 5 or 6 games at the start of last season, about 12 months ago.
He's past it.
Done. He's washed up.
Yeah, he's washed up like De Silva and Arzani. And a lot of people just wanted to get in the spirit of it and said all of them. Nadia Tennants on Facebook just said all of them, go Australia. And another person on Reddit just said, goes to show that the talent's there and we no longer need to keep relying on aged players for fear of losing games, which I thought was just a good comment to close it out as well. But speaking of Aussies, we've got some news that broke a day or two ago. Matty Ryan signed for Arsenal, signed a short-term loan deal with Arsenal to the end of the season, where he'll presumably be a backup to Bernd Leno. He's a boyhood Arsenal fan and the first Aussie to play for the men's side since Jos Kosmina in the 70s. Cosy played there, which I was like, I did not realise no one had played for Arsenal since then, or no one had played for the men's team since then. Boys, what did you make of that, Damo?
I mean, it kind of felt like it was sort of out of left field, but it wasn't. Matt Ryan was looking to go somewhere, and Arsenal have been presumably looking for a backup / someone to compete with Bernd Leno, who's not been in the greatest of form. So I think Ryan will probably go to Arsenal and he'll play a lot in the Europa League, and he'll get some games, and hopefully he can sign a long-term contract.
Colby is the facilitator of the hashtag Saving Matty Ryan change.org petition. I thought I'd throw it back to you and just say, how do you feel about this, mate? I mean, is it justice for Matty Ryan?
It's justice, boys. I cried happy tears for about an hour, a good hour. I had a good cry for my son after my vehement defense of Matty Ryan on Twitter, after my crusade on Twitter.
Yep.
The cringe crusade that I launched from the official More Than a Game account, burning down anybody who crossed our paths and said anything bad about my son, Matty Ryan. I feel vindicated. And no, I'm very pleased for him, though. I think being number 2 with a realistic possibility of game time is far better than being a number 3 with just you're not even getting mentioned in social media. And since the wallpaper gate earlier in the week from Brighton's Twitter account, where they didn't mention him in some wallpaper that they made, and we and everyone else on soccer Twitter roasted them for it. They've been like posting highlights of his and stuff like that. They never responded to us, never blocked us or anything like that. But now they're like subtly just like posting like Matty Ryan appreciation stuff. I'm like, I see you. Fan and listener, Arsenal fan and More Than a Game listener Arnab mentioned on Facebook that he personally wanted Arteta to go from the minute Martinez left, and said he's arguably the best keeper in the AFC contingent playing for, and they've got him playing for Arsenal now. So Arnab sounds pretty pleased about it. Friend of the pod and listener Shabab said it's not only great to see him because I love Ryan, but I think it's a really good move for Arsenal too. His shot stopping hasn't been as good this season, but big upgrade on Runarsson and can play out from the back well. So yeah, it's looking pretty positive for Matty. And if you want to get on the discussion, we're on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and now Reddit as well, like we mentioned. So just follow us on those, and you can get in on all of this and more. We had one listener question, boys, from last week, left over from last week. It was Huey on Twitter that wants to know our thoughts on how Benyat is settling in at MacArthur. And I had to look up some stats and highlights because I had no recollection of what he'd done. I know he scored that one goal, but he's played 4 games, I think, and got himself 2 assists as well. What have you made of him so far?
I don't think he's had the impact that a lot of people thought he would. But that could still be settling in, the temperature, everything that goes with all the travel and the stuff that he's not used to. Hopefully we can see more from him, because I think the MacArthur fans especially are expecting more from him. But at the moment, yeah, he's been a solid player.
It depends on the quality of the player out at Campbelltown. I mean, can they provide delicious food to satisfy the tapas requirements? I think you'll see a correlation between good tapas and good football with MacArthur this year.
Oh, there's certainly some characters at that club as we're coming to know. You can always send us in your questions, comments, hot takes, or anything else into us at mtagpodcast@gmail.com or on any of our social media, and we link to all of those in the notes to this podcast. Coming up next, A-League Match Week 5. Boys, the Woo came out on top over the Glory in an absolutely chaotic game at Geelong that saw a record 8 goals scored in the second half, with the match finishing 5-4 to the Woo. Western United dominated the first half of this game, only for 1 goal to be scored by Victor Sanchez early on. And then Richie Garcia went to his bench early, hooking poor old Steins for Carlo Amaretto at 38 minutes. Then bringing on Riley Warland and Brandon Wilson at half-time seemed to have a pretty positive effect, with Amiento changing the game straight away, firing that rocket past Curto at his near post, and then a minute later laid on the assist for Bruno, who scored that outrageous flicked behind finish on his 100th game. What did you think about those, boys? We'll just take this a couple of goals at a time because there were so many to go through.
The start of that first half was just, I didn't know what was going on. I went to the kitchen, I poured myself a glass of water, and I came and sat down, and it was 2-1. And I was like, huh? What's going on here? I missed 2 goals, and I obviously saw them catching up. But I think there was it 6 goals in 15 minutes or something in that period there between the 54th minute and whatever it was. But it was ridiculous, and it was just the commentators were going, "There's another goal. There's another goal. Surely there can't be another goal."
I was just laughing every time there was a goal because Zappone was just losing his mind in comms, and you would have heard it, listeners, on the transition to this segment as well. He was just absolutely losing it. You'd love to see it. And we were tweeting at him asking had anyone got him a Lemsip or anything, because his voice had just gone by about 60 minutes through the game. It had totally gone.
Well, to be fair, 60 minutes is probably more goals than Speedy called in the last 6 games combined.
Speedy likes to yell when there's not a goal, though. He likes to do the preemptive yell, and then I'll be like, I'll look over at the screen and actually nothing's happened.
But when you have somebody on expert comments, you need to give them some time to make those expert comments. Otherwise, you're encroaching, and I think Speedy knows that.
He knows his place now.
Knows his place. Going back to what Damo just said, I mean, it just kicked off. The 56th minute, it just kicked off. I mean, there was 1, 2, 3, 4 goals. Then the 67th minute was a bit of reprieve with a yellow card, and then another goal in the 69th minute, 75th minute, 78th, 84th. Absolutely mental. I mean, it was 1-0 up until the 56th minute. So, if you finished watching this game at halftime, or you're like me, you didn't watch it at all, rest in peace.
What is Perth now in their first 2 games have scored? They've scored 9 and they've conceded 7. Is Richie Garcia trying to be the Leeds of the A-League? Because there's no defense at all, but they can score goals.
I think basically he admitted that in the post-game presser. He's like, we need to start doing defensive training, basically. But I thought in this game, both teams' subs just changed the game. Obviously, Rudan then went to his bench and brought on Dylan Paredes, who scored with pretty much his first touch, and then another one a couple of minutes later. I mean, every goal in this game was a pretty solid goal as well. And then you had D'Agostino with the thumping header to make it 3-3. And I'm stealing this name from at Glory Oscar on Twitter, calling him Shagostino. Shagostino.
I saw that.
We're absolutely using that on this podcast from now on, and thanks at Glory Oscar for that. Tomoki Imai also got in with a belter as well. Before Amiento slotted one in to get Perth back into it. And then, of all people, Stephen Lustica grabs himself the winner through traffic off a set piece to win it for the Woo 5-4. Boys, have you made sense of this game yet? I just can't get my head around what's just happened.
No, it was... it's one of the few games that I've sat down at the start of the game and gone, I'm going to pay attention this whole game this time. And I didn't, and I missed 2 goals. I still can't make, there was 9 goals and it was 8 in the second half. It's just unbelievable. You don't see that very often.
But you know what's funny though, because if you rewind just about a week or under a week ago to the Perth Adelaide game, I mean, that ended up being 5-3, and I know, and it's granted that Adelaide scored a few late consolation goals, but it's another game with the Glories involved, and you've got 8 goals in that game and 9 in this one. So it's extraordinary to watch that many goals in a game. I mean, you just don't see those score lines very often. At the moment, it's just madness.
There was a stat from Opta saying there was 6.2 more goals in this game than the expected goals suggested for the match, which is the second biggest positive disparity in an A-League game since Opta began doing analysis. The biggest was the +9 in Western Sydney, Brisbane in 2016. But
expected glory.
Massive. Expected glory. And there was glory in the commentary box as well. Obviously, we mentioned Zappone just losing it on comms, but he was joined by Archie Thompson, our favourite walking meme of the A-League, a national treasure. He was the one who coined Amaretto for Carlo Amiento. And we asked the question on Twitter. We were sort of like, oh, did that just happen? Did Archie just call Amiento Amaretto? And listeners got at us saying, yeah, I heard that too. But they were also saying he called earlier in the game, he called Josh Risdon Mark, just inexplicably called him Mark Risdon. And then at the end of the game, he was wrapping it up, and he compared the game to Kathy Freeman's 400-meter gold in 2000.
Well, no, he had two comparisons. He said there's moments in sport that you'll never forget in your life, like Kathy Freeman's 400 meters in Sydney and like winning 6-0 in the grand final when he scored 5. And I was like, how are you picking those two out of everything in the world to compare this game to?
He just wanted to flex on his 5.
Yeah, big time. Big time.
He mentioned that 5 goals about 3 or 4 times during the broadcast, and Zappers was just like, oh, gee.
Oh man. But I mean, what else can we take away from this game? Like, I mean, surely these teams aren't going to be scoring 5 goals and conceding 5 every week.
Well, incredible resilience for both teams. I mean, obviously the Woo eventually won the arm wrestle, but both teams were just constantly overcoming setbacks and then righting the wrong, and then they'd have another deficit, and it was just kind of like, Glory just showed great tenacity to keep coming back, and the Woo showed great tenacity to keep pushing them away. And I'm glad that somebody won the game, because it deserved. Somebody needed to take the glory. Obviously the Glory didn't, but somebody needed to win that game because it deserved a winner. It was just so great resilience showed by both teams, even though the defending was appalling.
I think even though Woo ended up winning the game, ironically, I think they'll walk away unhappier than Perth. The Woo are so proud about how good they are defensively. The fact that they conceded 4 goals will piss them off more than the fact that Perth couldn't get a win.
I don't think anyone will be more unhappy than Besart Barisha, though. I think he's in his longest A-League scoring drought at the moment. And listen,
it's 12 games, I think.
Yeah. He hasn't scored in quite a while, and he looked like going into this game, he was like foaming at the mouth. Like the team talk before the game, he was like getting into everyone, and he was just like, it was just like he had like the red triggered eyes through the whole game, and he would have just been filthy that 9 goals was scoring. Steven Lustica scores a goal, and he doesn't get one.
Well, and I think the biggest thing for Best is he might not even start next week after Piraeus came on in his position and scored 2 goals within 5 minutes. The minute Best went off, that front line changed. Piraeus with his speed, Lockie Wales with his speed, they just completely changed the game. So Best might not even start the next game.
Or maybe he just becomes a false 9. He he literally is just going to be, a ghost. Yeah, a ghost up front.
He ghost over to the bench. But you could see that. I mean, he's still one of those strikers who's got those predatory instincts in the box, but he's definitely lost a yard. There was a few times where Diamanti was just putting it on a plate for him, and he was just like, he was trying to get there, but he was just getting outrun by the central defenders, which you don't see that too often with Bez. In years gone by, you see him getting those balls and chasing them down.
Yeah, and I think more telling is quite often Connor Payne got in behind the fullback, or I'm not sure who's playing right fullback at the moment for the Woo, got in behind the left fullback, and they did that cut back to the near post where Bess in years gone by with 9 out of 10 times was first to the ball, and if he wasn't scoring, he's making the keeper make a save. And I don't think he got first to the ball in one of those challenges. So that's the yard of pace that he's lost, and maybe the little bit of sharpness that isn't there anymore. And that's where he used to get probably, 60, 70% of his goals was at the near post there.
Well, let's move on. We have to move on. As wild as that game was, another wild encounter was the one that kicked off this match day. Was Sydney hosting Central Coast. Swaggering around, not only for Central Coast to shock them 2-0. And this is the first win over Sydney in their past 17 meetings, and it's the third clean sheet for the Mariners of the season, and they're now top of the A-League again. So, boys, are they back? Do we believe in the Central Coast? Do we believe that they're going to keep up? Not that they're going to win it, but do we think that they're basically not going to finish 11th or 12th as we all predicted?
With Clisby at the back, they could do anything. That'll G up Tommy C.
Yeah, it'll trigger him.
No, honestly, it's been really refreshing to see the football Central Coast are playing. For lack of a better term, they got the shackles off and they're kind of free to do anything. It seems that's the way they're playing. But I think they're quite well drilled, and you can see by a lot of the set pieces, a lot of moves they do moving forward and how they transition into attack, that they're quite well drilled and they're very well coached. So, credit to the coaching staff that have got them to play that way. And I don't know, it'd be interesting to see where they're going to finish in the league, because I think they've already outdone my expectations, and we're only 4 games into the season. Yeah,
and the key stat there, you're talking about clean sheets there, Colby. Damo's point there on the attacking side of things is bang on, but the fact they're getting clean sheets, this has been their undoing the last, basically feels like forever. It's just they can't keep a clean sheet. They can't keep people out. To keep Sydney out and win 2-0 is just sensational. Take that at any stage of the season.
We've spoken about how we like Nisbet. He looks like a real talent. And Birigidi, we know his quality, but their central defensive pairing is Ruan Tongic and Kai Rolls. And Ruan Tongic looked like a monster in this game. I think he's played for like 4 or 5 clubs now, and this was looking like it was going to be last chance before the NPL saloon for him. But he looks like he's really taking that opportunity at Central Coast.
He's put on a whole bunch of muscle. He's really he's become an enormous man. Like, he was this thick, thin kind of centre half, and Kai Rolls as well has put on a lot of weight. He was probably all of 50 kilos last year.
Tomac the tank engine.
That's good from you.
But I think that's key. I think that's key to it as well, because in this game in particular, time after time, Tongi was not only winning balls in the air and sort of doing all those things that you'd expect a central defender to do, but he was doing the more complete central defender stuff. Like, he was breaking up. He was looking like a Fabinho, kind of like breaking it up in the middle and then going on an adventure up past halfway and distributing the ball, causing all sorts of trouble.
Yeah, and Kai Rolls isn't any scrub. He was the captain of the Joeys. He was the captain of the Australian under-19 side, and he currently is knocking on the door of the Ollie Roos team. So he's, he could well go to the Olympics if they go ahead this year the way he's playing.
I think he could also make the MCFC, which of course is the team that we pick within the A-League, which are all players with names that could be capable of releasing albums as a rap career. So of course we've had the famous LA Rose. I think you've got Joach in there as well. So I think Kai Rolls has got something to it as well. I can see that's selling a few records as well. So that's 3 players already. And I feel like we could add a few more to the list and get a full 11.
Yeah, his name really rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
It does.
And you spoke about Alu Cool as well, Damo.
It's my boy.
Yeah, apparently your boy. But he looked good as well, and I just living for his presses after the games, and he's just he just looks like he's having fun out there.
And I think he's full of confidence. He's just having a good time playing football. He's really enjoying it. The problem for him is going to be if things don't start going Central Coast's way, or he stops scoring goals. How is he going to react? Because at the moment, from starting his career to now, it's just all been up and up and up and up. Everyone loves him. No one's criticized him. But the moment people start doing it, how's he going to react?
And on the other end of this one, Sydney, just 1 win in 3. Don't think they're too used to losing. If Steve Corica's touchline antics were anything to go by, where there was that gif that's now a gif where he's just got picked up a full water bottle, opened it only to like tip it out on the ground, and then he gave a really salty presser after the game, and their fans were losing it on Twitter as well. I mean, aside from you love to see it sort of areas, do we think that Sydney are going to dip off a bit this season? Because we were starting the pre-season of the pod, the preview, sort of saying, can anyone catch them? And most of us answered either no or oh yeah, but I think they'll finish second or something like that. But where do we sort of see them now?
I think they're still really hinging on waiting on Bobo to come back and start hitting his straps like he did. And I think they're pinning a lot of their hopes on that because at the moment they don't really have any focal point going forward. They seem lost trying to go forward. And yeah, like you said, it's as soon as things start going wrong, they've got a lot of personalities there that might clash, and they're saltier than the water at the eastern beaches at the moment.
And I mean, because yes, they're waiting on Bobo to come back, but I sort of thought that Costa Barbarouses would pick up a bit more of the slack in the meantime, but he looked really out of sorts in this game, like missing like at least 1 or 2 clear opportunities or opportunities that you'd expect him to at least hit the target. What's going on with him, Jesse?
I don't know. I mean, I was actually just noting the shape that Sydney are playing with. So they had a 4-2-2. 4-2-2-2, if that even makes any sense. And that seems a little bit strange compared to what they did previously, because I think that they did obviously change formation on the field, but it always felt like a really obvious front two, feeding the ball up to them. But if you look at that shape now, you do feel like they can be got at around the edges. If they can get behind Bratton and Ritter there, or even just the Caceres and Ninkovic as well. If they can get around the back of them, we're seeing a few errors from Sydney, which we don't usually see. So yeah, we can sort of criticize the attacking stats because that's what they should be performing. But I actually think it's because they're not dominating the midfield as much as they normally do, and that's where I think. And also the Mariners, I think one of the things we have to give credit to them as well is that they've been very clinical. So they've taken their chances, and the goal that they did score, one of the goals they scored was a deflection, but it was just well taken. So credit to the Mariners, I think. Performing
well above their XG.
That's right.
And there's now apparently an A-League XG account. Damo, you've missed the window to start.
I'm so disappointed because I said in the group chat last night, boys, we need an A-League XG account, and then today there's an A-League XG account. So we've either got a spy who is leaking information, or it's one of you boys, and I'm not happy.
There's a rat in our group chat.
I'm not even capable of creating a burner account, so you can rule me out.
Well, Tommy C's already got like 3 burner accounts, so for pointing fingers, it's him.
Tommy C was actually the creator of the original bullpen.
and the real A-League memes.
I still think Tommy's behind A-League Brazil as well.
Yeah, he says he isn't because he chats with the account all the time.
Yeah, he interviewed himself.
I think he is. Adelaide and Melbourne victory. Adelaide got up 1-0 in a pretty entertaining game at Hindmarsh on what looked like a pretty warm day there. Mo Toure, as we mentioned, scoring the winner, and the difference in this game. But it was pretty much one-way traffic. Victory didn't look like they had too many answers to Adelaide. Obviously, they have a lot of injuries, which we'll talk about in a moment. But let's talk about Adelaide. I mean, it's all about their young talent. Mo Toure, 16. That was his A-League debut last night. His
starting debut, I think.
Starting debut, yeah. Sorry, yeah. He's had a number of appearances off the bench, and he still holds that record for the A-League's youngest ever goal scorer that he got last year. And I think he'll probably hold on to that for a while, unless your boy Musa Toure gets it.
That's
when
right.
He comes up when he makes the first team at like 14.5 or something outrageous. Louis Dorito chipped in as well. Al Hassan Toure still got to come back from injury. But then you had a couple of other young boys come off the bench as well. Cassini Yengi, the 22-year-old forward. who came on for Motore when he got a little bit of a niggle late in the game. Apparently, he's got 5 goals in pre-season and has another one with a brother playing in the A-League. His brother Tete plays for Newcastle. So another one to watch out for as well. Kusini Yengi, we'll have to keep an eye on him. And another one who got some minutes, an 18-year-old winger by the name of Yaya Dakuli. Came on. He came through the Melbourne City Youth setup, playing for them in the NPL.
He actually started their last 2 games. He was actually benched this week for Motore.
He didn't look out of place either these past couple of games. He's looked really good.
And another man with a brother, Pacific Nyongabia, came on as well, and he's the younger brother of Elvis Cansoba. So
he's the good one.
He's the good one. Can
he backflip though?
I tell you who I was really impressed by when they came off the bench for Adelaide. It wasn't a teenager or a young Adelaide product though. Was Javi Lopez. Came on playing as a right back, or as Speedy called him, Harvey Lopez.
Harvey Lopez, the king of pronunciation, and he kept saying it as well.
He does it on purpose, I swear. But I mean, he came in to play midfield, and he came on as a right back, obviously because Ryan Strange is coming back from that little strain that he had. So it was a good little inclusion. And I think the first 5 minutes he was on the pitch, he was brilliant. And then he kind of just faded away into the distance when Victory had nothing to offer.
Well, they say Adelaide's a big town. I mean, at the moment it's Motown, Motown fever over there, and it's absolutely rocking, I hear.
And boys, we all clocked the tifo at the start of the game as well. Just wanted to shout that out on the pod as well. Why would anyone want to go there? We thought that was pretty good banter, and we got added by a lot of people in the Red Army. Tyson Sturdy and others from the Red Army on Twitter were adding us after we sort of posted that screenshot of their tifo. But I just think that's great. Like I just love when actives actually do like big, decent tifos that are bantery. It just it gives something extra to our league, and you just love to see it. The victory, though, boys. I mean, it's all about injuries. I've no idea why this is happening. Falami not in the squad. I think he did his knee injury. He's the only one who hasn't done a soft tissue injury at the moment. He did his knee at training during the week. In the 9th minute, Rudy Jested did his hammy. McManaman went down with an injury and had to go off in this game. Apparently, the VUC trained the day before a game. Damo, is that normal?
Yeah, that's normal. Usually the day before a game, you just have a light session. You'd run through some set pieces or some shadow play or something like that. I don't think they'd be doing anything, overly physically extending in a training session. And most teams would train the day before a game.
I was looking at the victories numbers pretty closely. Really high XXK stats. If you're wondering what XXK is, it's expected exasperated cruise. And it was absolutely through the roof. I was absolutely astounded at the numbers. Every time the camera cut to him, he was exasperated, and we've come to get used to this. But he was particularly exasperated at this performance. So keep an eye on those stats. They could even get higher as the season goes on.
That's what really stood out to me in this game. And I guess it's pretty much the theme of the pod. We've been talking all about these exciting youth players who are not only exciting, but they're seemingly hitting the ground running, not looking out of place and delivering on their potential. And then in this game, you had 2 ex-Socceroos up either end of the pitch, desperate to get themselves back into some kind of form, and I think you'd have to say up until this point, not really succeeding at it either. In Tommy Urich up one end and Robbie Cruz up the other.
I think Tommy Urich has, and I hope that he's kind of settled into a role where he doesn't believe he has to do it all himself. And I remember saying that in the preseason, that if he thinks he's got to do it all himself, then he's going to have a horrible year. And I think he's got to realize that he's got Motore running off one side of him and Yaya Dakuli running off the other side of him. He's good at playing back to goal. Just play with your back to goal and let those young kids do the doggies, and you can just do the easy work, spin and get all the second ball. And I'm sure Carl Viet's telling him to do that, because it seemed like that's what he did yesterday. He kind of took the back seat to Motore and he let Toure do all the running in behind, and it was good to see Urich play that way.
So as we say in music, it's just less is more sometimes. So, being a musician, he understands.
Motown. I'm done. I'm done with this.
Motown, that's decent. And
I do have a question for you though, Jesse. What's happened to Rojas? I think he was the worst.
I was about to ask that exact question. Yep.
He was the worst player on the pitch for between either team.
It doesn't make any sense. I can't make sense of it. It's not like he's had a horrendous form run coming into the season. I know there was only a few games to get an eye on them, but I think he scored in at least one of the preseason games, and I can't make sense of his form. I don't follow him as closely as I probably should, but from what I've seen of him, he's been obviously very disappointing. And you just can't, like, the Victory aren't a team that can basically expect to get especially away wins against these good teams if Cruz and at least one of them, or Rojas, are not playing well. If they're both not playing well, then they're really, really going to struggle this season.
We've got a Twitter comment on that, boys. At Boise on Twitter says, Rojas is the Vuck Barbarouses, overpaid most of the time, and he's pretty average, goes missing when needed.
Sounds like the real Messi.
That's pretty accurate.
They're both the Kiwi Messi, Barbarouses and Rojas.
One's the Kiwi Aguero, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the Kiwi Coon.
Kiwi Coon.
Jesse, we can't say that on this podcast.
Sorry, Kiwi Coon.
Oh, speaking of outrageous things that you can't really say anywhere, the Shotton, the COVID denier, who couldn't deny Toure earlier on in this game, he looks exactly how you'd expect him to look. And we had a question on that from our friend of the pod, Lee Broxham Facts. Is Ryan Shotton's hair too long, or is it not long enough?
I don't know, but he looks like he's towing a caravan whenever he runs, so maybe that's what's tying it up.
Yeah, that's probably right. Jeez. Tow bar.
It's
absolutely
tow bar. It's not aerodynamic at all.
Oh. I think it was very early on. Ryan Shotton was marking Mo Toure, and I think after about 5 or 6 minutes, Mo Toure spun him on halfway and took off and was about 20 meters ahead of him by the time they got to the 18-yard box. And I'm pretty sure Dylan Ryan came over and he tapped Ryan Shotton on the shoulder and said, "I've got him, mate. Give him to me." And that was the best thing that Ryan Shotton did all day, was swap and go into Tommy Juric.
I thought I was watching Gareth Bale against Barcelona. I mean, he just towed the ball down the sideline and just left him in the dust.
Just ended Mycon's career that day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And finally, boys, I just wanted to say Brimmer, Jake Brimmer. Is he really the best set piece taker that the Vuck have got? Surely they've got someone else. I mean,
it's either him or Lee Broxham.
So why is it Lee Broxham taking set piece?
I don't know. Surely Rojas is good on a dead ball.
That's it.
Who knows?
Yeah. Surely. Final A-League game of the round, though, was the one that was just before we started recording this pod. Wellington and Newey. Newey finally off the mark for the season with a surprise 2-1 win over Wellington at Wynn Stadium. Valentino Ewell scored again in third consecutive games. Boys, are Newey not shit?
I don't know what's going on in New South Wales there, but Newcastle and Central Coast are both overperforming everyone's expectations.
Yeah, I think that what they, from what I saw, I mainly got the most of the second half, and I think from what I saw, at least in the second half of Newcastle, was just that when they did break, they had some decent shape on the break, so they seemed to fan out to each side, and they were providing options. And I think that as they sort of discover what they want to be and what their identity is going to be, they've got a really simple game plan. It's like if you fire it into the box and just create a bit of chaos, you're going to see results. And they almost got that outrageous bicycle kick as well. Like there could have been more goals in this game. And it's just it all came from the defenders basically isolating the centre backs for the Phoenix and just creating pinball in the box. And that's actually quite effective when you're trying to unsettle a team, and especially a team that's low in confidence, which the Knicks are clearly. quite low on confidence at the moment. So it was smart from the manager.
Well, it was all Newey as well. I mean, the scoreline makes it look a bit tighter than it was. It's probably a bit flattering to Wellington, I guess, but it was a late penalty that they got, and Newey were all over them this game, and both of their goals came from sort of counter-attacking because Wellington were just trying to attack them and then just getting dispossessed, and Newey were able to get it up to Ewell and O'Donovan up the front really quickly, and those two were just playing off each other and causing Wellington all kinds of problems. But what's going on with Wellington, Jesse? There without a win this season, and are they going to get back on track?
I think it's a mix of lacking a bit of quality, especially with the getting the balls in. It's all well and good firing the balls in, but I mean, if Hammond and that haven't got exactly, if they haven't got the confidence to bury those chances, then you might as well just be doing what Liverpool have been doing, which is just firing in hopeful balls and just getting them cleared off the line.
Cross
Devlin,
and inshallah. Is that what they say about Liverpool? Cross and inshallah.
Jesus. Just basically Alexander Arnold to Ben Mee. Just pick him out. But I think the other thing I noted is Devlin. There's quite an over reliance on him being the backstop there, and we don't have a lot of pace at the back. So the minute that you see the ball get past Devlin, Wellington are genuinely in trouble. So if Ufuk Talay could sort of devise at least a strategy to take a little bit of the weight off him, because Devlin's busy anyway, which is great, but if he goes in for that tackle, which is his instinct, and he misses it, or at least they get past him, we always seem to be very exposed, and we can huff and puff and try and take as many opportunities as we can, but it only takes 2 counterattacks and we're out of the game. I mean, I can't see us coming back from 2-0 down at the moment. We need to actually take the lead early to win these games.
The quality's there up front. I think you're right, Jesse. It's just getting the combination and getting the sort of the personnel and the structure right in the middle and towards the back as well. Because like you've got it there in spades up top, and they did look dangerous when they did have the ball around Newcastle's box, but Newcastle were able to defend and keep them out for most of the game. Quick updates before we go on to the Premier League. Our A-League Survivor tipping comp has wrapped up. So after 4 game weeks, it's wrapped up already, which is like longer than a lot of Survivor tipping comps. So this game week saw Shabab and HSN going head to head in our finale. HSN suggested a best of 4 in this entire round as a mega round of Survivor tipping instead of just a single tip each week. So that they've just run their own race, run their own competition. HSN went for the home advantage with his picks, meaning correctly tipping the Reds and the Woo, while Shabab correctly tipped Central Coast, Adelaide, and Newcastle, meaning Shabab is the victor with 3 picks to 2 in our finale, and the overall MTAG Survivor tipping. Congratulations, Shabab.
Yeah, congratulations, and don't listen to technicality, Tommy. Okay, just enjoy the spoils.
Enjoy the spoils, Shabab. We'll enforce the rules on you next time and see how you go. Thanks for playing, everyone. After the success of this, we'll be back in a couple of weeks. We'll give it a bit of breathing room, and we'll be back with another round of MTAG Survivor tipping. But right now, we'll take a quick break and then come back for match day 19 of the Premier League. Boys, match day 19 of the Premier League. We've got a couple of games to go through. Two real standout games, I think, we'll go through today. Obviously, the first, Liverpool and Burnley. Burnley beating Liverpool at home 1-0. Few moments in the game. Divock Origi had that 1v1 miss. Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold both drew some pretty excellent saves from Nick Pope. Ashley Barnes won and converted a pen. But in the end, that goal was the difference. And Burnley have ended Liverpool's 68-game home unbeaten streak. Liverpool have gone 4 games without scoring. Liverpool also have the most shots without scoring a goal, 87 shots without scoring a goal. And the next closest is Leeds on 27, for context. So I think Chelsea's home unbeaten streak of 86 games is pretty safe again. Liverpool are 4th, 6 points off United in 1st, followed by Man City in 2nd and Leicester in 3rd. Jesse, what's going wrong with Liverpool?
I think that after I cooled down, because that was a particularly frustrating game, on the back of a couple other really frustrating games, I was able to sort of put a perspective for it. And for me, like, I love football enough to understand, to step back from my team and actually have a good look at it. And this really is the shit show of what's been a lot of different things come together to basically catch up on Liverpool. You've got players that I think they expected to rotate players. They can't, because a lot of those players are injured. Jota was going to be one of those players that was going to really make a big difference, and he's out. And I'm not using these as excuses, because the Jota injury was something that we all talked about at the time, where Klopp played him in a game where it was pretty meaningless. So you can definitely ask questions of the manager in that regard, but you can't account for losing both your centre backs and disrupting the pattern of play and how things work. So the facts are that they have been very disrupted, and to finish top of the table at Christmas and that, yeah, they were there, but you just kind of felt like they could be got at. And we're now sort of seeing what I feel like is a more of a falling back into the mean where they should be, really. I don't think that they're as dominant as everybody thinks they are. They have some serious weaknesses that everybody can see. And the fact of the Premier League is that those teams like Burnley, if they start to sniff that those teams aren't as bulletproof as they were in previous years, then we've seen with Man City, teams like Newcastle, and that sort of upset them. Because they basically understand they can be taken for the. So I personally think that Liverpool are kind of where they should be now. I think it's kind of evened itself out, and I'm sort of realistic enough to think that now it's about, okay, the way that they're playing football is not effective at the moment, and there's a lot of players out of form. So Klopp's going to have to have some humble pie, I think, and devise a plan B.
And if Man City get the win over West Brom, they'll go top next. So I
Favourites,
think this is the 9th team to lead the league overnight this season, boys. So is this going to be the most open title race we've seen in recent memory?
I think it's the most exciting one I can think of, with the most amount of clubs up there with the possibility of winning. I mean, I think there's how many teams are with the 6 or 7 teams who are only within 7 points of the lead at the moment, and they're only halfway through the season. So there's a lot of teams up there with the possibility of still challenging for the title. And then the top 4 race even then becomes even that much more exciting, because there's 10 teams that nearly could qualify for the top 4 at this stage.
Yeah, it's very tight. Even from Arsenal in 11th, you'd say they're on 27 points, and Liverpool are only on 34. So Arsenal are not even that far behind Liverpool.
No.
Yes, we're only I guess just over a third of the way through, something like that. So yeah, it's I couldn't pick it from here, but I'm going to ask you two, who are your favourites now, Damo?
I think City are the favourites to win the league at the moment. I think there hasn't been as much pressure on them as there has been on Liverpool and Man United and Spurs specifically so far to start the season. So if I'm going to say any 2 teams, I reckon it's going to be Leicester and City, just because I feel like there's little pressure on those 2 teams at the moment compared to the others around there. And
I think City for sure.
Yeah,
I think City for sure. I think that their weakness was defending, and they fixed it. And Diaz has turned out to be a fantastic signing. He seems to be the first name at the back on the team sheet now. So,
and let's not forget that Pep's got a tune out of John Stones again, which is a huge turnaround since last year. The Diaz and Stones rather probably the best centre back pairing in the league at the moment.
And to think he's got Laporte there, that's just come back to be available again. Nathan Ake, that can just be thrown on in the odd game. That's the scary thing about City, is that when they have been average this season, which is the first half of it, they had injuries. They don't now, apart from Aguero. They're all coming back to be fit. And the scary thing as well is that now the rest of the league are still in this shit fight where the results are all mixed, and now City's starting to show consistency. So they could be the one team that actually just shows consistency and winning their 1-0s, 2-0s, and they'll just fly because no one can do that. No one can seem to hold consistency this season.
boys. I mean,
I did see I've got a good funny quote for you, Liverpool fans. It was a tweet about obviously Burnley breaking the 3 years, 270 something days, 68 games, and the top comment was, "Wow, Liverpool can't even go 4 years undefeated at home. What a tin pot club."
I saw another comment linking Liverpool's downturn in form to Shaqiri's hairline, saying that Shaqiri is the reverse Samson. They fixed his hairline too much. He's sporting a quite full head of hair now after being almost a whisker away from getting the bick out. So he's I don't know. I don't think his calves are as big anymore either.
Wow.
Let's go on. Let's go on to Leicester and Chelsea now, boys. Chelsea have slumped to 9th after going 2-0 down to Leicester at the King Power in a pretty one-sided affair. Chelsea previously limped past a 10-man Fulham, lost to City and Arsenal 3-1 and drew with Villa. We know that Abramovich is not the most patient owner, and Joshua Watson wants to know if Lampard faces his inevitable sacking, who's going to come in and replace him?
Oh.
I think that's a big reason why they haven't sacked him yet. There's no one to replace him. And to be honest, if this wasn't Frank Lampard, hero of Chelsea Football Club, then he still wouldn't be in the job. He would have been gone weeks ago, months ago even.
Craig Shakespeare. Give it Shakespeare for the season.
I did read a really interesting stat that since Klopp said that Lampard's Chelsea was the favourite to win the league, they've won one game in all competitions. And I think it's been like 11 games or something.
Put some respect on Nigel Pearson's name. Colbs, bring him in.
Who are they? They're throwing.
Couldn't Gus come back again? Surely.
Well, who's Wolves manager?
Nuno.
Yeah, they're throwing Nuno's name around to replace Lampard if he goes.
It's a no for me.
But they're also throwing his name around for the City job once Pep walks.
Jeez.
That's some big raps on Nuno.
Yeah, huge raps on Nuno. I would have given it to Sean Dyche personally, but actually, I think I've made this comment on the pod before, but one of the things that really pisses me off is that lazy narrative that the media use about Sean Dyche being the boring manager. Now, you can throw that at your Steve Bruce's and all these sort of managers who just keep teams up, but I think Dyche gets a bad rap because from all accounts, when he was at Watford, apparently he was about tiki-taka. Can you believe it? He loved his tiki-taka. He's basically in a job where if he tried to play that football, he'd get ripped to shreds. So if you're looking at it on purely like a, horses for courses thing, he's done an incredible job at Burnley. So I just want to see Dyche at a bigger club. I don't know if he'll get that opportunity, but it'll be great to see.
I think Dyche, like David Moyes, he's got a level. Like David Moyes, his level at Everton was, the Everton Cup and maybe breaking into 4th. Dyche's level is like lower Premier League breaking into the top half. And
that's what I'm saying.
That's his level.
But we don't. I guess we don't know though. We haven't got any sort of point of reference. If Burnley get a big injection of cash, I mean, who knows? Dyche might be picking up the best of Europe, and Burnley might be absolute juggernauts in the league. Stranger things have happened.
Dyche-alona,
yeah.
Well, just back to Nuno. I mean, I'd like to see how he goes at another team as well. I mean, can he coach a non-Portuguese team?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think what was it? Wolves just signed Willian Jose, the Brazilian player. I said to you boys this morning, just because he can speak Portuguese doesn't mean he is Portuguese. Wolves got that one a little bit wrong.
The HR department's made a mistake there.
Near enough's good enough now. Their standards are dropping.
Well, after Portugal shut their borders to the UK, they had to go to Brazil.
That's right. They've turned to Brazil now. Yeah. I don't know with Nuno. I think again, like he's a pragmatic manager, and you mentioned recency bias earlier on in the pod, Colby, and I think that managers, we have this recency bias about just looking at their last job, which makes sense, but it's very hard to look at Nuno past Wolves because you just look at what he's done with Wolves and you sort of think, how could he jump into a Chelsea or what was the other team that we were talking about? He's linked to. Nuno was linked to City as well. Like, how could he jump into a team of that size? I just don't know if has he got what it takes. I guess that's the question.
Well, him and Deitch have the similar trait of only using up until recently. Like they both went like 2 seasons where they pretty much only used 11 players, or 13 players or something for the season.
Yeah,
I mean,
they don't rotate.
Burnley more so through needing to, because they had literally no one else. But Wolves had, they had a bench to go to, and Nuno was just picking the same guys every week and not really changing it unless he was forced to through injury. So yeah, interesting. Like that would be an interesting thing to see how he'd adapt to that at a big club, like where you've got, you have like
stars on the bench.
Riyad Mahrez like screaming at you if you don't pick him every second game or something like that. So I don't know. I don't know how he would handle all of those different things that come with managing a genuinely big club.
The original question, though, is a very interesting question, because I think that if obviously we're not going through what we're going through, there'd be a few managers maybe queuing up. But I honestly think it's a difficult time to be trying to find a manager. And Chelsea have kind of put themselves in the situation by going so big in the transfer market. I mean, I just feel like, like they've taken a gamble in a way, and it hasn't really paid off. So,
especially with big clubs as well, right? Like a big club in COVID times, just after Brexit, like I think just about every underperforming big club is going to be a bit of a poison chalice now for the next little while, because their clubs are going to be hamstrung by budgets. Presumably they're not going to be able to come in and just have their pick of anyone in this environment. And even if they can, even if someone comes into Chelsea and Abramovich decides to open his never-ending wallet, like who are they going to get in? It's going to be incredibly difficult with COVID and Brexit, sort of constricting who they're able to get in at any point in time.
Yeah, and I think the Chelsea fans at the moment are a bit like Arsenal in that last season when Wenger was still in the job, and half the people wanted him to stay and half the people wanted him to go. Chelsea fans seem quite clashing at the moment, where they want Lampard staying or Lampard gone. Some are saying he needs more time, he needs time to build a squad. Others are saying, well, he's had everything, he's been given everything at his disposal, and he's only made us worse. So what more else can he get? He's got to go. We need something fresh. So yeah, they're in a real difficult situation, and like you said, Colby, I don't think they can pull the pin on him. They've put themselves in this situation. They've got to kind of ride it out and see how it goes.
Mm.
But if they don't make top 4, Lampard surely has to go then. That must be the bare minimum to keep his job. Must be Champions League.
Well, the irony is that Nuno might become available because he loses his job.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Well, at the moment, like we said, Chelsea are sitting in 9th on 29 points, and they've got a bit of work to do if they're going to make the top 4. Well, that will do it for us today, boys. Thanks, everybody, for listening. If you've enjoyed the show today, we'd love it if you could give us a review on Apple Podcasts. It's a great way to let us know what you think of the pod, or send us some feedback. Give us a shout out on social media. We appreciate it all. You can also follow us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel for the video version of this pod, which we are recording on now. It comes out about a day or so before the podcast version drops. So if you want to see the match reviews or hear the match reviews a bit earlier, follow the links in our show notes, and we post them on social media as well. Next week, we'll have the next round of the Premier League and the next match day of the A-League. But until then, enjoy the football.
See you.